Mostly sunny, high 88 at the coast, 94 inland. For Sunday, partly sunny and quite warm, high 90 to 94. For Monday, Memorial Day, partly sunny and hot with a high of 90 on the coast, 97 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
Diamonds in the sunset, now your time has come. A pretty yellow bird fly away.
All right, 6 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. In 1972, my family moved here to Florida. We moved from a suburb of New York City and moved to a very, very rural place called Rainbow Lakes Estates. I'm sure all of our listeners know Rainbow Lakes. And our next-door neighbor was the Smith family. And one of the members of the family was Doug Smith, and Doug was 11 years old. And for those of you who've heard Robin and I for a long, long time, you know that Doug has been a friend of ours. Doug has Down syndrome. He's now 56 years old, 50,
yes,
something like that?
56.
And so we have known Doug all these years. He is considered, I guess, high-functioning Down syndrome person. The story I remember hearing from his mother was that she was told he probably wouldn't talk, which he does wonderfully. He probably wouldn't walk, which I don't understand that, because he was walking when I met him. He was fine. And the recommendation, the suggestion to put him into an institution was part of the story. But she was smart and she was loving, and Doug's amazing life is because of the love of his mother. That's my spin on it. I don't know if spin is the right word. Our next guest had something very similar. The one difference is, however, she adopted her son. Kari Wagner-Peck, wait till you hear her story. The book is called Not Always Happy, An Unusual Parenting Journey, one of only a few books about adopting a child from the foster care system with Down syndrome. Kari Wagner-Peck is a homeschooling mom, adopting and raising a son with Down syndrome. I already told you that. She's a storyteller and a performer, a contributor to the Sydney Morning Herald, the Huffington Post, the Good Men Project, the New York Times, and she's on our phone line. Let me say good morning. What an honor to have you on our show, Kari Wagner-Peck. Good morning, Kari. How are you?
Thank you. That was quite an introduction.
I'm
really
sorry it was so.
it.
Yeah, I'm sorry it was so long. But your story.
No. Oh no,
Your story
Yeah.
sounds so much like the story, except for the fact that you adopted. That's the only difference.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of parents, and I mean, just in general, the what we really know about people with Down syndrome is not accurate, and hasn't been for decades. And
Is that
so,
right?
I mean, even now, it isn't. Even the medical community is still touting, old facts that were never correct. And I think that woman, your friend, your neighbor, that at that time, that must have been a very frightening decision. And you're right, she did make the smart choice. She trusted herself and her family and her son to go against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did the same thing, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I think, we hadn't planned on adopting a child with a disability at all. And once we made that decision, we ignored what we read as well. I mean, it's the focus seemed to be, particularly at that time, what Thorin would not be able to do. And we decided not to buy into that.
Uh-huh.
Like we would raise any child.
Yeah. So when you were making decisions, see, the one thing I've always thought in Doug's case is that had the mom and the father was alive. He died very young in Doug's life, very early in Doug's life. But had she and they not had not followed their instincts and done what they was suggested, Doug would have been in an institution, and I think the predictions that he would have been low functioning would have been proven true. They would have said, "See, we told you," because he's in an institution. I think it would have been the institution that could have caused him to not be fully functioning or as high level as he is.
I think that's a brilliant deduction on your part. That's absolutely true. People, not just people with Down syndrome, but any one of us will become what we're told we are. And I think you're right. That would have been a less than life for him. It sounds like, he's got a good, rich life.
Yeah.
And it's because they didn't believe that. And I think you don't have to believe what people tell you. You can reject that. There is no great truth.
Where are you right now? Where do you live?
We live in Portland, Maine. I can't say I'm a Mainer, though, because I moved here from the Midwest. So I'm from away, even 25 years later.
Uh-huh. Did you have any laws in your state that had to affect the adoption or the fact that you were adopting a child with Down syndrome?
No, I mean, we adopted through the foster care system, so our son was a ward of the state. He was in another foster home. It is a bureaucratic process, so it did take, once he moved in with us, it was another almost a year before we could legally adopt him.
How old was he when he moved in?
He was two and a half when he moved in, and he was 3 when we adopted him.
Oh, we know a couple that had that when their biological child was born. She has special needs, and then when she was about 5 or 6, the couple went into the foster care program to have foster children, and then they found one child that they wanted to adopt, so they went through that process, and it turned out he was a special needs also, but they gave him all the love in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think people, it's, I'm sure they found, as we did too, it's not really that different. I mean, we decided before Thorin moved in, we heard about him, and 4 months later we met him, that, his biggest disability would likely be society. His chromosome count, we don't find that defines him. It's part of his identity, but it's really people's perceptions about that have been the biggest disability for him.
The book is called Not Always Happy, but it is kind of funny, and you're a funny writer. You're a good author, and it's hard to not laugh. We both questioned, Robin and I, whether we were laughing because we sort of kind of can relate to it, because I'm just telling you, we have a really close relationship with the Doug we're talking about, and in fact, he lives like a block away from me, and he's independent living, and he comes over to borrow coffee creamer all the time.
Yeah, and other stuff.
He comes over for breakfast a lot. But the point is that we were kind of relating to what you were writing. But I'm thinking even people who've never had that experience are going to find the loving humor that you have woven into the book.
Oh, I sure hope so. I mean, that was, I mean, I think there's a lot of universal themes in the story. I think you're right. I mean, I've had people who aren't parents tell me they love the book. There was something in their life that made them feel different, and it made them feel they could relate in that way, and I think the humor certainly helps.
But you also bring out the different facets of people. I mean, you also have scenarios in there where the people are not so nice to others who they perceive as different, and you just want to throttle them.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there's swearing in there, too. Well, you didn't bring that up, but... Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do. It is hard not to feel that anger. I also think, like, in writing about people, I did try to give them a full personality. So it wasn't just they're just a horrible person who said this, but there are other things. And I'm pretty honest about my own shortcomings. I mean, my husband and I made a lot of mistakes. And I think it's important to include that as well, that, we're learning on this journey like everyone else.
The book again is called Not Always Happy. Why the title? Explain the title.
Well, one of the things, and I don't think I had been that aware of this expression until Thorin became our son, but so many people would say, "Oh, they're always so happy." And I knew they weren't talking about toddlers in general. And I found it really offensive, that people with Down syndrome are always happy. It just flattens the entire personality, the gamut of feelings and emotions somebody can have or express.
Yeah.
And so that's really where that came from, is, no one is always happy. And certainly Thorin had a lot of reason not to be happy, given his circumstance.
How old is Thorin?
Now he's 10.
Okay. Do you know, I'm going to tell you an observation, again, just from our relationship with Doug. When I'm with Doug, when Robin is with Doug, we're so close to him that we don't even see the Down syndrome. We don't hear it in his voice. We don't see it in his face. He's just another person going to the store with us. He can make us laugh. He can make us think and everything else. And Doug is the same way with us. He'll be talkative, and he'll talk to us like there's nothing different. But when he's with somebody new, and that new person reacts to him because they see, oh, you've got Down syndrome, then he will in turn kind of almost respond to them almost in a way that maybe he thinks they expect him to. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've noticed that in Thorin.
Yeah, I think, I think I have. Thorin is small for his age. He also has apraxia, so his speech and language, he has difficulty. And I do notice that, when he's at home, when he's with family and friends, the stakes aren't as high. We go out in public, if somebody's like, "Oh, can I have a hug?" And it's like, no, you don't know him. You don't get that like a boy with Down syndrome. And, he's sort of like, he's put off by that. And before, I think he used to respond more that way, or he'll often say, "I don't know," or "I can't say." It's like, I don't want to deal with this person. Mm-hmm. I see where they're coming from, and he immediately shuts down. And I think I'm glad you're pointing out that it's the perception put on the person that causes the change, because I think you're exactly right.
But he learns from you and your husband and everything, but you and your husband and family also learn from him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thorin has, a tremendous amount of strength. He's been through a lot, and he's really a resilient person. He's very funny. I think his sense of humor helps with that. And he really just keeps trying. He would have had every reason, given that he was in the foster care system. He had health complications, and that, he just didn't curl up in a ball of defeat. There's something very powerful and strong about Thorin to just keep moving forward.
Do you know who his biological parents are? Because sometimes it's, when people adopt children, the biological parents are in the equation, even though they're not physically there.
We do know. In fact, I did meet his mother on several occasions. He actually had visitation during the early months of our fostering. And one of the things I write about in the book is, our fear that we would lose him. I believe in reunification of families too. But if the parent is not going to change and provide a safe and loving household for a child, I don't think that child has to go back. And that was a big part of our early parenting with him, is the fear we would lose him.
I don't know if this is too sensitive or not, but was Thorin put up for adoption because of the Down syndrome?
No, Thorin was put into protective custody.
Okay.
Thorin was removed from his family's home.
Gotcha.
So, and that's really how, that's how children get into foster care. something happened or several things have happened, most likely, and they're placed in protective custody.
Do you have more than one child?
No, we're just spoiling this one rotten.
The reason I was asking, I wasn't sure. The reason I was asking is because sometimes when there's a child with a special need, the other child who has normal needs is sometimes overlooked, and I didn't know if that might have been part of it.
No, I think it was really my age. I mean, I was 49 when we got Thorin. The idea of more children sounds great. I mean, I don't know how that would happen. But I mean, I think he certainly needed our intense attention for several years. I mean, he's much more independent now, but so it was, I think it was a good decision.
So were there any aha moments, not to steal from Oprah, but were there any moments as you're raising Thorin where you and your husband said, you know what I noticed, and maybe we should do things this way? Did I just stimulate a thought, a memory at all with the question?
Well, it makes me look like a really bad stereotypical parent, but Thorin had difficulty bonding with me, which is also in the book. But once we did bond, it was such an intense bond that he actually, like I would think something and he would say it. Like I'd be in the car thinking, oh, I wonder if we should go for ice cream. And he'd say, yeah, I want ice cream.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, God, this kid's got like some super ESP thing. And so, of course, and my whole book is about slaying stereotypes. I'm like, oh, it's a Down syndrome thing. Kids with Down syndrome have ESP. And we were at a conference. I can't believe I did this, but so we're at this conference and it's on Down syndrome and behavior and everything's going great. And I say to my husband, I'm going to ask, and he's like, please don't, Kari, don't ask that question. I'm begging you. And of course, I asked it, and the presenter's like, no, I've never heard of that. And it was like a really defining moment. Like, even I am vulnerable to these. We just have a connection, and I'm sure other parents have had that as well. And I wanted to attribute it to that. So that was embarrassing.
Do you homeschool Thorin? And if you do you have play dates with other children so he can be with his peers?
Yeah, I mean, Thorin, we're ending our third year of homeschooling. His socialization is actually so much better outside of school. In school, he was picked up. He was treated like the class mascot.
Oh.
He constantly complained of feeling like a baby. It's been much more positive. Like, he takes theater class, dance class. He has a movie class. He has a standing play date with a couple friends. So his social life is so much more rich doing homeschooling. He's meeting kids who have similar interests of his. And we've never had any problem in any of those classes.
The book is called Not Always Happy. It is written by our guest, Kari Wagner-Peck, and you're in the state of Maine. You said in Portland, Maine, right? You're up there?
Yes, yeah.
Gosh, what was going to ask you? Has there ever been anything profound that Thorin may have said to you and your husband? I don't know if that's going to ring a bell for you. I'll tell you the one that Doug said to me one time. We were talking about his having Down syndrome, and somehow we were talking about life after death, and I said to him, what about life before life? Do you think there's a life before life? And he said, oh, yeah. He said, I remember telling God I wanted to be born to my mother. And I said, really? And then he said, yeah. I said, well, did you know you were going to have Down syndrome? He said, yeah. And I said, holy mackerel. I mean, I don't know what to believe, but I'm just telling you, we had this conversation, and I thought it was rather profound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, that that expression, like if you know one person with Down syndrome, you know one person with Down syndrome.
Right.
You know, that it's, so Doug sounds, you know, like he's deep. I mean, like he's got a lot of thoughts on that. And I'm sure, I mean, that's entirely possible, right?
Yeah, but Thorin is 10. Thorin is 10, so maybe that's still to come.
You know, Thorin, I think he has, you know, he's a bright kid, very curious, but he also is able to manage complex ideas and emotions. You know, we always referred to his biological mother as his mom or his biological mom, and just a few months ago he corrected my husband and said, no, my ex-mom. That's my ex-mother. And I was like, wow. You know, that's really, you know, it's like, well, that didn't work out. That's my ex-mother. And I was like, Gordon, that's brilliant. Like that, I said, I've never heard anyone say that, but that really makes sense.
We bonded with you.
So, I mean,
you're his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Now, how does he take to other people when you and your husband want to go out for an anniversary celebration or something like that? Is he okay with a babysitter?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Thorin's he's a very independent person. I mean, he goes to, you know, the classes by himself. I mean, I drop him off. But no, and he's at that age where he prefers to be away from us.
Oh, okay.
You know,
there you go.
To be away from us. He likes to hang out with his friends. So he's very independent focused.
Do you know, you said if you meet one person with Down syndrome, you've met one person with Down syndrome. I think when you meet one loving mom, same thing. You've met one loving mom. And from what
loving dad.
And loving parents, yeah. And from what we know about you in the short interview and with the book, I think you could have raised anybody and they would have been just in a loving relationship, you know, a parent-child relationship. I just think that what you're telling us is the real key to how he's living his life. It's because of the way you and your husband are.
I hope so. I mean, you know, you always feel like you fall short at the end of the day, but I hope it is. You know, and you're right. I mean, I wouldn't raise any other child any other way. You know, our focus is really on be yourself, you know, be loving, you know, help others. Just the real kind of basics of the human contract, you know, be a good person.
I love the picture at the end of the book. It's the black and white of the three of you.
Oh my gosh, well, that's how he feels about his dad.
And
his dad is cool. It looks like he thinks his dad is cool, is what it looks like.
And May is National Foster Care Month, so this would be a really, really good month for people who are considering being foster parents to find out what the program is all about.
Well, it's been a very enjoyable conversation, Kari. Thank you for being on the air with us. I have a copy of the book, Not Always Happy. If I have a listener who wants it, call me, and it's yours. The rest of us have to buy it. Kari, can you send us to a website?
Yeah, KariWagner-Peck.com, so my name.com, and there's more information on the book, and you can, you know, ask your local bookseller if you prefer to do that, but it's also on Amazon.
Where it has a 5-star rating, by the way, 5 stars. That doesn't happen very often. Thank you so much, Kari. Thank you for being on the air with us. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, you too. It was great talking with you both.
All right, we'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. President Trump and leaders of the other G7 nations meeting in Sicily.
President Trump has every possibility of butting heads with his peers here over climate change and protectionism. He has already called Germany, quote, very bad on trade, as it has a large trade surplus. Trump wants Americans to buy more American, and one of his pledges has been to bring jobs back to the United States.
Fox's Amy Kellogg. A South Carolina man has pleaded guilty in exchange for life in prison with no parole to killing 7 people over 13 years. Todd Kohlhepp ran a successful real estate business at the time. A record number of folks